There are times when I have to work a bit harder to make sure I'm creating the time to slow down, take deep breaths, and live in the moment. It has even meant saying no to doing things when I truly want to say yes. This particular week, I made sure a couple of hours each day were designated to slowing down, but with a purpose. This morning, I'm preparing a cozy, warm drink at home to soothe my soul and let my mind wander about how I will enjoy my day. I'll be sharing more about my herbal teas in a future video. This particular herbal tea is some lavender I dried from the garden and a lemon verbena from my garden. And I'm adding a slice of lemon for a touch of vitamin C and a little extra zing to my morning. On another morning, I decided to try a new recipe, and it's almond flour pancakes that came out amazing. So I have almond flour, baking soda, salt. I used avocado oil in mine, a little vanilla, and also some maple syrup and 2 eggs. My husband was willing to try the first batch, and they were a great success. I'm even thinking of using some local honey in the batter mix versus maple syrup. There's no need to wait because I actually made them this morning while finishing editing, and with the honey and a touch of nutmeg, they are so good and so fluffy. The recipe is definitely up on my blog right now. Some of you may have seen my recent video on preparing for the holidays and Christmas. After I went through my home and lifestyle magazines, I decided that for 2 days I would take the time, go outside, and forage for items that would make floral arrangements, wreaths, and holiday craft items for our home. I had a few ideas in mind, but I didn't know what I would find. I was lucky enough to walk around and just took in my environment and grabbed things that I knew I could use. I have some crab apples here. I got some leaves, berries. I'm even bringing this bittersweet in. I know it's a very invasive plant. If I choose not to use it, or if I do get rid of it, I'll probably be burning it. It will not go in the compost. During this calming time outside, I did find that I kept feeling a little anxious, as if I had to run back home to do something. And you know what? I had to remind myself that I created this time as my time, and the only thing waiting for me back at the house was a pile of laundry. Then I was able to relax because we all know I don't like to do laundry. One of my stops was back at the garden. I cannot believe my lavender came back full height again. I'll have to cut that later. But I went to the Siberian irises and I grabbed the last of the seed pods that I'll use in a potpourri with essential oils. And you'll see later I also found some columbine and other seed pods in the surrounding gardens, and I just kept collecting. I'm now back in the house and I'm putting things out. I've had some things on the kitchen counter, and I'm going to now move everything to the dining room to assess what I have and start making items and putting some aside for later. I'm so intrigued with these peony pods. These are from my over 100-year-old plant that has traveled with me from home to home. I can't wait to use them in my potpourri or even a wreath to look at all the time. Wild rose hips, they're full of thorns, but I will deal with it. They reminded me of pepperberries. And here's that bittersweet vine again. I'm going to snip off some of the leaves, and what you're going to see in a moment is I'm going to make a wreath out of it. I used my cookie jar of all things for the size because once I created it, I'm going to leave it around the cookie jar for a few days just to help cure it in a nice round shape that won't sag or turn into an oval. And I left it in the kitchen for a couple days, and then I will sit and take out the rose hips, and I'm going to add it to this wreath. Now, of course, this is a step that's not necessary. When I make my grapevines, I do not do this, but I've never used bittersweet, and it kept trying to go into its own shape, so I'm giving this a go. Just a couple days later, I decided to move production outside, so I grabbed the vine wreath and the rose hips, and I'm making little bunches, and then I'm adding them on to the wreath and wrapping with wire as I go. Now, I did get pricked a lot. I probably cursed a little bit more than I wanted to, but I would absolutely do this again. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last. They're not very fleshy. Like I said, these are rose hips that have a lot of hardness to them, but this might just be something that lasts a couple weeks, but I'm very pleased with it, and I can't wait to see what you think about it once it's inside. And I'm just comparing the real to the fake. I did this with the leaves as well, and those are pretty darn good. And here it is. I absolutely adore how this came out. It exceeded my expectations. I'm very pleased with it. It's going to stay here on the dining room table. I can hang it up somewhere if I choose. I am anxious to see how long it lasts, and hopefully it will at least make it through to Thanksgiving. I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see. And it was free. I love that. Other than the wire that I had already on hand, absolutely free. And I should mention the candle is setting in a base of coffee grounds surrounded by pine cones, and it does get off a wonderful smell, but the coffee grounds were to help keep the candle from rocking on an uneven base. Now, for those of you who have not seen the video, I sent some leaves to a friend in Florida who just moved away from New England, and I did press them a different way, but this is the old standby: getting a nice big book or several books and putting your leaves or pressed flowers in. And I used a book of old antiques that I actually forgot I had, and I'm anxious to go through it again. And in a moment, you're going to see that I'm turning the page to some lanterns, and I'll be pointing at a lantern that I'm like, this looks similar to me, but it actually is the lantern to the left you're going to see looks a little bit more like it. I picked this up. This was actually used in either a Martha Stewart photo shoot for the magazine or on set, I'm not sure which, but this was something that I purchased last year, and now I can look it up and get a little bit more information about it. The plan I have for these leaves is I'm going to wrap them around a glass cylinder, put a candle inside, put some raffia most likely, and I will have a decorative candle holder, and I will show you that in a future video. And here's the cut hydrangeas. I temporarily put them in this wire urn pedestal, for lack of better words, for them to dry, and then these will be on my Thanksgiving tree and possibly a future Christmas tree, all covered with gold spray. And the grasses that I just cut in the field and some seed pods, I made the arrangement in place, so now I have to clean up an awful lot, but that's what happens when you're getting very creative in your home. And I've had this for a while, but I'm known to pick up feathers also while walking. So this one ended up being placed in one of the old inkwells, and I think it looks perfect. And on another cool day, I decided to make a roasted red pepper and tomato soup. Part of the recipe came from one that we had in a past fall issue of our magazine, and I'm going to modify it a bit more, and then once I perfect it, I will share it with you. But for now, kindred spirits and first-time visitors, I want to thank you for visiting my home and lifestyle YouTube channel. And right now, I'm going to enjoy a glass of wine while I stare at Jack and enjoy an evening with my husband outside.